Hello and welcome back to one of our mini training sessions on Workbooks CRM aimed at existing Workbooks users or indeed anyone seriously looking at Workbooks as a new CRM system. And in this one, we're going to cover setting up new users in Workbooks. So a walk through the essential steps for setting up new users in Workbooks CRM. And you might think, oh, this is a bit of a boring topic, bit of a dry topic. But honestly, whether you're adding new team members, restructuring groups, teams, or optimizing permissions, then this session will provide you with practical tips and a reminder to ensure that your Workbook CRM system is secure, is working efficiently, and tailored to the company, the organization, and indeed your users, your colleagues' needs. Now, I guess this is aimed at admin users, as we call them, super users, but it's also relevant to business owners, department heads, key stakeholders, and even mere mortal users should have an understanding, should have an awareness of their setup within the application. But most of what we're going to cover in this session is aimed at those super users or admin users. Hello, my name is Tim Wilmot, joined by my colleague Stuart Lawrence and Hind. Our company, Wizard Systems, are a leading independent CRM solutions provider of systems like Workbooks, and we help out organizations use simple and affordable solutions to improve three areas of their organization: sales, marketing, and customer service. So thanks those of you on here live for joining us today on this mini session, part of a series of sessions, just aiming, we pick on different topics in and around Workbooks, trying to help you get the most out of the system. And as I say, this one we're going to cover setting up your new users. Now, the audio part of this call is one way only. If you've got a question, please pop that into the question box on your meeting control panel, and Stuart and I will do our best to answer that at the end. Let me now hand over to Stuart, and he'll take us through those top areas to consider when setting up a new user.
Okay. In the past, we've looked at some of the elements that go into how users are created and maintained. We've also discussed what you need to do to remove a user from Workbooks. Today, we're going to have a proper look at what goes into setting up a new user within the CRM. So as you can see, I'm on a user's landing page, and we can see the list of all the users within the system. And this page gives us some great information straight away. You can see the top 4 users have their accounts disabled. That's why they're in gray. And you can also see the rest of the users at a glance, what license they've been allocated, what extensions they've been allocated, and even sort of what databases they've got access to. So that's great, sort of as you go into the system straight away, you've got an idea of what's going on with all your users. But let's go and have a look at an account in detail, and we can go through the steps. So this is Anthony's record, and the first step when setting up a new user is to create their profile. That's this little top section. And it only wants the basics to begin with. It wants their name, their email address, and with this new interface, you also get to use pictures, and these then appear throughout the sim, and they're a really nice touch to sort of personalize some of the activities and settings within the system. The rest of this page deals with security, the default language, the license that this person is going to be allocated, and the last part deals with the extensions that this user will be able to use. So let's take a closer look. So name, picture, email address, and a little tick box to say that the account's enabled. Perfect. Let's go and have a look at security. Right. So this is where you enable one or more of the authentications that you want your organization to use. Straight away, you've got password authentication, which is the top one here. That's basic, challenge and response with a password. You'll also notice a little option set aside here called login protection. What is this? Right. This forces a user to confirm that they are who they are when Workbooks doesn't recognize where someone's logging in from. If they normally log in the office and they log in from home, the system will challenge them to prove it by sending them an email to the registered email address on the system. So their login email. They'll then confirm the link, and the system will add that IP address to their system to log in. So it's great for controlling who can access Workbooks and from where. The rest of these, or most of them, link to third parties like Google Authentication to use their login process, Microsoft. You can link it to Azure to use your Windows credentials. Okta is third party. Apple, similar system. Mobile authentication. That's a great trick of using the mobile app to prove who you are so you can log into the desktop app, which is a nice feature. If I go into this top one, this password authentication, one of the things that people worry is it's just on and there's nothing else in here. The reason for that is the actual password authentication is tucked away here. And it's here that you set up what you can do with it, what the minimum length is, uppercase, lowercase, letters and numbers. Are you going to allow punctuation? How long it expires for? Now, it's one thing that we've been discussing recently is this password expiry, because there's now a new train of thought now that you shouldn't set the password expiry to be too frequent. People get complacent, start adding number ones or number twos to the end of a password and just maybe just an exclamation mark. So we're setting a long period. You actually get better passwords. So it's just something to bear in mind there. So we pop back and have a look at Anthony's record. The rest, you see that they're either on or off. And if these other options are turned on, it just means that they add the little icon for those particular products to the start screen. That's all it is. And when they click that, they follow the prompts to log in using that protocol. Right. Change password at next sign-on. Handy if someone's forgotten their password. You don't need to reset it or anything silly. Just pop into here, tick the box. Next time someone goes to log in, it'll say you need to set a new password. Exempt from password expiry. Again, this has been discussed and really it's sort of aimed at admin users where the account doesn't need to change that password. Right. Moving on. Let's have a look at language and region. The default with Workbooks is to use the browser's default setting, in other words, the area where you're logging in. Workbooks has also got 3 custom languages that can be configured to suit any custom fields that you've got in the system. And while you're here, you can also set the date and time zone and what display you want everything to be here. And here I've got, this system is currently using English US, so you'll see things like organizations with a Z, but I've got it set to GMT, and the time and date format will be British. If you're the administrator and you know everybody's based in the same place, you can tick that box and it will force all users to use the same settings. Again, hopefully nice and easy. We'll move on into the license section. Right. Now, one of the powerful features of Workbooks is you're allowed to mix and match your license types. You're not tied up in all your users on the same license. As you can see here, this particular user has got the Events Pro license. Other users may have CRM or Business. And the beauty of this is it allows you to only use or purchase the licenses required. If you've got 2 people in access to the events system, you just need 2 licenses. Your sales team or your support team don't need access to that portal, so you don't need to purchase those licenses. So you target the licenses for the right user. On from that, in this area, you also get to tick the boxes to allow users to use the right extensions that your system has. This could be something like project management that you see ticked. It could be the Workbooks server sync that you can have. You can see here that obviously we've got the Event Pro Edition, so I've got the event management. Comments are turned on. That's a great feature that you can have the built-in chat engine. So when you're talking about records, multi-language, so we can switch languages, and loads of others. As you see there, mapping, translations, all built in. So you can make sure that the right user has got access to the right toys. And the last option on this one is just the organization. You just tell this system what organization this particular user is going to use as their default. That's the front screen. That's setting it up. If we move on, it's now a case of moving across the top. So set it up as the organization. I'm going to use this organization, my standard organization. This is my home organization. Right. Now these two are combined, groups and capabilities. So groups. By using groups to decide what this particular user can do, you can control what they can and can't do. So here you can see this particular user can go into customer services, they can go into the incident management, they've got like an admin, but they're not a total admin, so they can see what they can do, project managers, project participants, sales, systems, and obviously view maps. And these decide what this person can select, whether they can add things, remove things, and delete things, all based on these groups. These groups, in turn, control capabilities. Capabilities are the user's engine, the overall thing within the system. You'll notice a lot of this is allows, but further on there might be some denies and can'ts. But each one of those drives its features in one of those groups. So the more groups you have, the more capabilities you have. You'll notice here, you can't add or remove capabilities. Those are controlled by going into one of these groups or into the user group section and modifying this. So that's those two working hand in hand. API keys, right. This is where you store any API keys that you've got linked for external systems that you've linked to Workbooks. And this is at the user level, not at the system level. It's not like adding one for, say, the MailChimp or Spotler API. This is just you working with something. That's why it only appears on your record. And the last tab is all the databases. Now, this one is a little bit over the top because it's a demo system. So this particular user, you see that there are 45 databases in the system, and each one that's ticked, this particular user's got access to. You may have one, you may have two. It is rare to see a user or a system with 45 databases. Go back to the start. That's it. It looks like a lot and it looks complicated, but actually once you've done it and you've walked through it, it does make a lot of sense. Set the user up, set their authentication up, grant them a license, put them in the right groups. That sets their capabilities, save it, and that's the account live. And with that, I'll hand you back to Tim.
Thanks very much, Stuart. So as you can see, or as Stuart said, loads of options there for you to consider. And also one thing that Stuart touched on, the addition, you saw the addition relevant to that new user we were setting up. The nice thing about Workbooks is that we've got these different editions, different kind of flavors of versions of Workbooks, and you can mix and match those in your team. So some could be using, say, CRM edition, and then others could use business edition. You decide which users use which edition there. And with all those options, some may not be relevant to you, but if in doubt, please contact us at Wizard Systems for advice on Workbooks CRM and which options would be relevant to you. Right. So while we're waiting for any questions, Stuart, on this, just a quick reminder about Wizard Systems. We have many, many years experience of implementing CRM. CRM is all we do. We do provide a number of different solutions, including Workbooks. But as regards Workbooks, we are a one-stop shop for you. We provision the product, set it up for you, do all the implementation, the training at your place, training at our place. We've got a couple of training rooms at our Bristol location, or we can do it online, and the ongoing support, help desk support as well. Right, Stuart, got looks like a couple of questions coming in or have come in. Danny is asking, how can we ensure that permissions and capabilities we assign to groups are both secure and flexible enough to adapt to changes in team roles? It's a good question.
Blimey, right. the ways that the groups work is that they can be they say structured, but it's structured with overlap. So the way to do it is I would say start with the bare minimum, just the access they need to do that role without going overboard. If they need to come to you for more or granted more information, obviously those extra features can be added to that group. And also you'll notice that users can be a member of more than one group. So you don't have to put all the sales type capabilities inside one group. You have sales users, sales super users, sales administrators, and the same with support. By structuring the groups, you can make sure that everybody has the beginning sort of opening capabilities, and then depending on their role, maybe add them to a different group that grants a little bit more, a few more capabilities. But by documenting it and setting it up and structuring it properly, then you can make sure that they've got, as you said, that it's both secure and flexible for your users.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to keep it to a minimum, and then they can shout at you if they can't do X, Y, Z in the application, rather than the opposite, giving them too much and they might do something dangerous, or they haven't had the appropriate training or instruction and they get into a bit of a pickle. Yeah, good idea to, you can always add things to it. It's always difficult giving someone loads of options or privileges and then having to take it away from them. Yep, thanks very much, Danny. Jordan is asking, what are the best practices for enforcing a strong password policy and implementing two-factor authentication in Workbooks CRM?
Okay, yeah, I touched on that. I didn't go into too deeper detail. We now have what people consider best practice, so obviously having a decent password length. It used to be, years ago, people were happy with 8 characters. That's fine. But now we're saying 12, 14, made up of a combination of letters, numbers, and characters to make it harder for someone to guess it. Moving on to 2FA, by enabling that to work with your systems, whether that's Google or Microsoft Azure or Apple, or the Okta plugin that you can get, you're setting up that extra level. So you've got username and password, plus you've got challenge and response. Someone connects using Microsoft Azure, and you're not asking to log in with your Workbooks password, you're asking to log in with your Microsoft password, and at which point, depending on what your administration has done, your Windows administration has done, you may be prompted to put in a code that's been sent to your mobile phone, or you may be prompted to go to your Microsoft Authenticator app and use the number that appears on screen to prove who you are. So it's extra, it's that two-factor, username and password, plus the challenge and response that helps lock down the system to make sure that only the right people are logging in.
Yeah, good question, Jordan. Thanks very much for that. Don't think there's any other questions, Stuart? Okay, thanks very much, the two of you, for that. Right, so current version of Workbooks is 7.4. We've got another marketing course next week. Please contact us for details on that. Of course, Workbooks is very strong at marketing. It's got loads of options in there for very proactive inbound and outbound marketing. And if you've got any topics for future sessions like this that you think would be of interest to other Workbooks users, then drop us a line, contact us here at Wizard. We'd be happy to consider that. So thanks very much. Those of you on here live, who are watching a recording, thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch up with you soon on another Workbooks 101 session. Thanks very much indeed. Bye-bye.